Welcome everybody. Today is May 7th. It is Wednesday. It's 2025 and you are here with Robin at In the Family Way Coaching. I am so glad that you are here with us as we are here for our daily counting of the Omer and our daily Bible reading. We are going through the Bible this year using the Day by Day Kids Bible, which has been written by Karen Henley. And if you are following along on that daily commitment calendar, go ahead and get that out and your sticker or however you are keeping track, because guess what? You're about to hear the Bible today. In case you do not know, you can download your own copy of that commitment calendar. You don't need to input your email address. You don't need to input any payment information. I just have it available for you on my website so you can keep track of your personal commitment to hear the Bible each day. And you can find that on my website at www.inthefamilywaycoaching.com, and you click on the tab for Read the Bible in 1 year. You will see a picture of a giant calendar for the month, and then if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see an arrow pointing to the bottom left-hand corner of that calendar, and then that's the little link where you click to download it. So thank you for joining me today, whether you are following along on your favorite podcast or whether you are watching on video. I'm so glad that you're joining with me this year. This is my take 2 of the video. I was almost done with the reading and then there was a sudden problem. So I hope I remember everything that I was going to say there. I hadn't actually gotten to that part yet, but okay, so today we are going to have our daily counting of the Omer. This is a commandment that God has given us to do personally. And so if you are interested in counting the Omer personally, you can look that up on your own or you can follow along on a devotional that Shoresh David, a Messianic Jewish congregation, has put out on their website as a free download as well. And I will put the link to that down below in the description, and you will be able to see that and download it from wherever you are. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has set us apart by your commandments and has commanded us to count the Omer. Today is the 3rd day of the 4th week and day 24. I have counted the Omer. I love the devotional that Shoresh David has put out. They always have such wonderful thoughts, and it doesn't take a long time. And I found one of them particularly helpful a couple of weeks ago that I even referred to yesterday and today that God is using. And I just really enjoy it. And I was following along in a book as well. And it's also has some great stuff, but I've really been counting the Omer with the Shoresh David download there. So I hope that you are finding that God is blessing you during this time of harvest. We are to count down the 50 days after the Festival of First Fruits, which is the day that commemorates Jesus's resurrection, because he is our first fruit of the resurrection of the dead. And this is the time of harvest in the spring, where we are to expect and anticipate God's bountiful harvest everywhere in our life. And we have a tendency to think of bountiful harvest in terms of money, but that doesn't have to be just associated with money. And I pray that God helps you open your eyes, your spiritual eyes, to see where God is blessing you in your life. It can be with a bountiful relationship. It can be with a renewed relationship that is blossoming and multiplying. It can be with spiritual growth during this time of obedience. We know that when we obey God, he blesses us. And so I pray that as you are obeying God during this time of counting the Omer for yourself, that you are also have your eyes open spiritually to see all the many places that God is blessing your obedience. I know I have been experiencing a lot of blessings of a bountiful harvest, and I'm just so thankful to God for these blessings that He is bestowing upon me. And we are counting down 50 of these days till we get to the day of Shavuot or Pentecost. And in case you don't know, Pentecost means 50 days. So isn't that cool? I like those little tidbits of information. And just as God gave us the outpouring of the Holy Spirit on that 50th day at Pentecost, which was foreshadowed in the Old Testament, with that final day of harvest on Shavuot, I am curious to see what God will pour out for us this year. Aren't you? I'm excited. It's even better than waiting for Christmas. These 50 days of counting down or counting up, these are. We are counting 50 days. We're not counting down from 50 to 1. Oh, so exciting. Well, here we go. We are going to begin our reading here in just a moment. Let me give us a little bit of a recap as to what we saw yesterday so that we understand the continuation of our story today. Today's reading takes place in 2 Chronicles chapters 19 and 20. And we saw yesterday how King Ahab was wanting to go to battle in order to reclaim a city. We saw there that King Jehoshaphat of Judah was with him and that they were working together. And we saw that Jehoshaphat advised King Ahab to ask God about it. And so Jehoshaphat had false prophets who were lying to him, according to Micaiah. But Micaiah told the truth, and he said that you need to send the people home in peace. And instead, King Ahab didn't do that. Instead, he fulfilled what Micaiah had said was going to happen. The people would have no leader, and that was because King Ahab put on regular clothes to where the army couldn't even identify who he was, which was his point. But then neither could his people. And then we saw that he was killed, and that was fulfilled when what God had told King Ahab prior. So now we're going to see King Jehoshaphat back in Judah. And King Jehoshaphat was working together with King Ahab. And this was something that he was not supposed to be doing. Because if you remember, he had suggested that King Ahab inquire of God as to what he should do. But he also heard Micaiah, the prophet, tell them that they should have the people go home in peace. And yet he still sent he and his army out there to fight with King Ahab. So he also fought against the enemy army, knowing that that's not what God had wanted them to do. So he had disobeyed God yesterday. And today we're going to see God speak about that. So today's selection is entitled Facing the Enemy. Now Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, got home safely from the fight at Ramoth. Then the prophet Jehu went to his palace to see him. You may remember that Jehu was appointed by God through Elisha. He had said to appoint him as well. God is angry at you, said Jehu. It's because you helped King Ahab. Is it right for you to help sinful people? Is it right to love people who hate God? But there is some good in you. You got rid of idols. You are trying to obey God. Then King Jehoshaphat went to the towns of Judah, and he got the people to obey God again. He chose judges for the cities. Be careful when you judge, he told them. Remember that you are not judging for people. You are judging for God. He is with you when you say what's right and what's wrong. So make God the most important one. He is fair and right. King Jehoshaphat also chose priests from the family of Levi. Keep serving God, no matter what, he told them. Look up to God. Serve him with your whole heart and tell the people not to sin. If they don't sin, God won't be angry. Be brave and do your job well, and God will be with you. One day some men came to see King Jehoshaphat. A big army is coming this way, they said, and they're coming to fight us. Jehoshaphat was surprised and afraid. He told all the people not to eat. They all came together to pray for God's help. People came from every town. Jehoshaphat prayed with them in front of the worship house. God, you are the God of who is in heaven. You are the King of all kingdoms. You are strong. Nobody can stand up against you. You gave your people this land. We built a worship house here for you. We said we'll come here if we get into trouble, and we'll call out to you in our trouble, and you will hear us and save us. But now an army is coming against us, said Jehoshaphat. We are not strong enough to win the battle. We don't know what to do. We are waiting for you to tell us. All the men stood there. All the women stood there. All the children and little babies were there too. Then God's Spirit came on one of the men. King Jehoshaphat, all you people, listen. Here is what God says, he said. Don't be scared. Don't give up. The fight is not yours. It is God's. God says to march out to meet the enemy army tomorrow. And they will be coming up the Ziz Pass. You'll find them at the end of the valley in the desert. You won't have to fight. Just stand there and watch. You'll see how God saves you. So God says not to be afraid. He says not to give up. Go out tomorrow. Face the enemy. God will be with you. King Jehoshaphat bowed down. All the people bowed down and worshiped God. Then some of them stood up and they began cheering loudly for God. Early the next morning, the army of Judah headed out for the desert. King Jehoshaphat said, "Listen, people, trust in God. He will save you. Believe in his prophets. You will win." Jehoshaphat talked to the leaders. Then he chose singers to sing to God. They praised God. Then they led the army. They sang, "Give thanks to God, his love lasts forever." So they sang, they praised God. Then God began to work out his plan against the enemies. The enemies began to fight each other, and they killed each other. Sometime later, God's people came to the place where the enemy army was. All they saw were dead bodies. None of the men from the enemy army had lived. Jehoshaphat and his men found riches at the enemy camp. They found lots of clothes and other things. There was so much that it took 3 days to gather it all. God's people got together in the valley, and they cheered for God. Then they went back home. They were very happy because God had won. They went into the worship house, and there they played harps and horns. Now the other nations heard what happened. They heard that God had been the one to fight for his people. The other nations were afraid. So Jehoshaphat's kingdom of Judah lived in peace. sometime later, Jehoshaphat made a deal with Ahaziah. He was the king of Israel now. And he was a bad king, just like his father Ahab. But both kings built some ships to share, and these ships were for bringing things to buy and sell. Then a prophet came to Jehoshaphat. He said, "You made a deal with Ahaziah, so God will get rid of what you built." And later the ships crashed. They couldn't sail anywhere. And that is the end of our reading today. So at the beginning of our reading and at the end of our reading, we are met with Jehoshaphat having been addressed by God for having made a deal with the king of Israel. Israel was not obeying God. They were not to be making deals with them. They were to instead be only looking to God. And we talked about this a couple of days ago, where the king of Judah was making a deal with the king of Aram. And he shouldn't have done that either. Or Israel did that. And he shouldn't have done that either. Because they're supposed to be looking to God. In mathematics, there is a concept called the order of operations. And in the order of operations, you have to do the math in a certain order, or you will get the wrong answer. And so what that means is that you can do all the right things, but if you don't do them in the right order, you will get the wrong answer. So the right answer is to obey God if you are looking to overcome whatever challenge you are looking to overcome. And notice how we have big challenges coming. And when we have great big challenges, great big battles, great big armies, that is where people have a tendency to look for God's guidance. When something looks too big for us, then we say, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to need help on this one." But when we have little tiny things, we think, "Oh, I know how to do this. I can do it." And it reminds me very much of a little child. And I have a tendency to do this too, even as an adult, but we see it, and it might be easier for us to recognize if we think about a little child, like a toddler. And what is one of the one things we often hear young children say? "I do. Me do. I do it myself." And we have a tendency to not outgrow that. We want to do things ourselves. "I can do it. I can do it. Me do. Me do." And so we go through life with this "me do, I can do it" attitude. And what we find is that that's not the proper order of operations. We need to ask God, like we saw yesterday they did for the battle. But even then, they asked God, but then they didn't do it. The problem looked small. They thought they could do it. They had two against the army of the city for Ramoth. And they thought, "Oh, surely the two of us, we can do this. We don't need God's help." Even though God said we're not going to win. That's the wrong order of operations. We have talked about that first, like with Elijah, and when he was saved and taken care of by God, that especially with the widow, that first she had to obey. Then God would provide enough for everybody. First, obey, then provision. So first, we need to obey and seek God's guidance. Even when it looks small, instead of saying, "I do, I do." And then God will give us his guidance. And then it equals success. And throughout life, we always want to do it our way. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. So today, we need to be encouraged to make God the most important one in everything. God is a very orderly God. And we see that math doesn't change. When we do math the wrong order, we get the wrong answer. When we do things in the right order, we get the right answer. So if you are seeking success, then working backwards, how many times have we done math by knowing the answer first and then working backwards to see, now what can I do to get the right answer? Sometimes it's easier to see things that way if we know the answer and then see, well, what do I need to do in order to make the math work out that way? And the math works out with the order of operations that we have to do things in the right order. Step 1, ask God. Step 2, obey. Sometimes God gives us great big challenges because he is drawing us to himself. We have to get to the point sometimes to see, uh-oh, this is too big for me to do alone, and then ask him for his guidance. But we need to look to God for even the little things. We are taught in the Bible that it says, do not make plans and say, tomorrow I will do this and I will do that. Instead, we are supposed to say, if it is God's will, I will do this. So that's the order of operations again, right there. First, seek. Second, listen. 3, obey. And the answer will be that God will win the fight. Sometimes we have to still step out. God always has us go out. And sometimes we still have to do the fighting as well, but God will be with us while we do the work. And sometimes we get to just walk up and watch God win the battle for us. And sometimes we don't even have to fight. But first, in order for that to happen, we need to seek God, listen, and obey. He told them to march out with their army and face the army. And they did. They obeyed. So they did everything in the right order. And guess what? Their obedience was rewarded by seeing God do an amazing thing. And it was so amazing that all the nations around them knew that it was amazing. And they were like, whoa, we are not messing with them. God fights for his people. Guess what? You are his people. I am his people. And we need to be less concentrating on I do, and instead let God do. The battle belongs to the Lord. So thank you for joining me today. I hope that you feel encouraged to have less you and more God. And if you feel that God has lit your light today, click that light button. It looks like a heart. Sometimes it looks like a thumbs up, but it's really a light button because we are the light of the world and we want to bring attention to people learning about God by reading his word every single day and seeing the daily application every single day in our own lives so that we can draw people to him. It's all about God, isn't it? Making God the most important one in our lives and letting other people know that they need to make God the most important one in their lives. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for clicking that like button. And if you have the ability and are feeling led to subscribe or follow along with the channel, then that will also be another way of lighting the way for Jesus and being the way of the light in the world. And together we can spread the word about reading God's word. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day, whatever time of the day it is that you are getting around to hearing this. And I pray that you have a restful day and full of shalom and God's peace. I will be here for everybody again tomorrow.